Most people think Excel formatting is just commas, decimals, and dates, but custom number formats can make numbers behave visually in ways most Excel users never realize are possible. They can turn numbers into text without a formula, add arrows and colors without conditional formatting, hide values without deleting them, and fill cells with dots or lines automatically, show units without converting numbers to text. The best part is underneath the values are still numbers. So your formulas, pivot tables, and charts keep working. Let me show you 10 custom number formats you'll actually use, starting with a common issue when working with large numbers. When you're analyzing data in the millions like this, you're usually not concerned with the exact dollar amount. All those extra zeros just get in the way. Instead, we can scale it down and display it in millions. The same values, just easier to read, compare, and present. To apply the format, select the data in the revenue column and Control 1 to open the Format Cells dialog box. Now you can jump straight down to custom, but I like to start with a format that's almost what I want and then edit it to save me work. So I'm starting with decimal places at 2 and comma separators. Now if I choose custom, you can see my current number format is selected. In the type box, I'll add a comma to the end to scale it down to thousands and another to scale it down to millions. And you can see in the sample preview how it's going to be formatted. Each comma at the end of the format tells Excel to drop 3 zeros from the display. And then so the user knows that this is in millions, I'm going to add M on the end inside double quotes. Now before I click OK, you might be wondering what the hashes represent. These tell Excel to only display numbers in these positions if they're present in the value, whereas zero placeholders in the format tell Excel to display zeros even if there's no number for that position. In other words, if the cell is empty, we'll still see 0.00M. I'll click OK, and now we have a lot less clutter, making the numbers easier to read. But if we look in the formula bar, you can see the underlying numbers are unaffected, so your formulas, charts, pivot tables, etc. will still calculate as you'd expect. Working with smaller numbers like the ones in the commission column, it's more suitable to scale them to thousands. Control 1 to open the formatting pane. I'll go to Custom, scroll to the very bottom, and there's my last format. Instead of writing it from scratch, I'm just going to edit this one, remove one of the commas, and change it to K. Now, 2 words of warning here. Don't mix scales in a report like this. Pick the scale that enables all your data to be clearly interpreted and stick with it. And if you're formatting a large table of numbers, it's better to put the scale in the header. So let's make the format in thousands. And I'll copy that and put it in the commission header as well. And then let's edit this one, Control 1, remove one of the commas, and I'll get rid of the decimal places so that it's less cluttered. Click OK, and now we have a clean table that's quick to scan. When you're working with variances, you'll typically find some values are positive. For example, here for sales reps who beat target, some are negative where they missed, and some are 0. They hit target exactly. You can aid interpretation by color coding positive values in green, negative in red, and 0 just neutral. And most people would set this up with conditional formatting, but there's a faster way with number formats. Control 1. Again, I'm going to start by applying a format that's close to what I want. I want no decimal places, comma separators, probably won't need them, but let's put them in to future-proof it. And I want negative values in red. Now we go to Custom, and you can see my format is already populated. And we have it in 2 parts. The first part is the positive format. Then we have a semicolon that separates the next format, which is for negative. Let's also specify a color for the positive. So in square brackets, I want green. And then remember for 0, I want a neutral color. So I'm going to add another semicolon. This is where my 0 value format goes. And I'm just going to leave it black. And instead of showing a 0, we'll show a hyphen. And now my positive values are green, my negatives are red, and 0 is represented by a hyphen. But the green is really hard to read. So you could change it to one of the other 8 built-in colors. Or there are a further 56 colors available that map to the color palette, which you reference using these color numbers. For example, if I want a darker green, I can format it in color number 10. Let's do that. Control 1. So instead of green here, I'm going to replace that with color 10. Just note that you need to spell color however you spell it in your region, so feel free to omit the U if you're using US spelling. And now I think you'll agree that green is easier to read. Of course, keep in mind accessibility needs of those using your file, because red and green can be difficult to distinguish. By the way, you can download this file from the link in the video description and pin comment, so you can reference this color palette in your own work. Plus, I've created a cheat sheet for you to use as a quick reference guide. Next, let's look at one of my favorite custom number format tricks, displaying text instead of the actual value. Here we have exam results as percentages. A score of 50% or more is a pass, and anything below 50% is a fail. Now I could use an if formula in another column to return the text pass or fail. But we can also use a custom number format, which has an added bonus of obfuscating the actual score, which might be desired in some cases. Let's take a look. Control 1. I'm going to jump straight down to custom number format, and in the type field, I'll start by color coding the pass results in blue. Then I'll add my rule inside square brackets. Where it's greater than or equal to 0.5 or 50%, close my square bracket on the rule. Then I want to show pass. Then the next rule I separate with a semicolon, and this one I'm going to format in red. And the rule is where the score is less than 0.5, close my square brackets, I'll return the text fail. Let's click OK, and instantly the percentages are replaced with pass and fail. And like other examples, these cells still contain the original percentage values. The formatting only changes what we see, and that means I can still sort, filter, average, or use these values in formulas because Excel hasn't converted them to text. Look at the variance column here. There are zeros where sales reps hit the target exactly. Those zeros visually clutter the report. Most people use if formulas to make them blank, but there's a simple one-character fix that we can do with a custom number format. And that is to simply type a second semicolon and leave it at that. Remember, the first format is for positive values, next is negative values, and then we have zero values. So leaving that third section empty means when the value is 0, show nothing. Now the 0 value is still there for the purpose of calculations like average and filtering, but they're no longer a visual distraction. When you're presenting headline figures, another way you can speed up interpretation for non-finance users is with up arrows for positive variances and down arrows for negative variances. You'll find them on the Insert tab in the Symbol dialog box. In the font, we want Arial, and in the subset, we want Geometric Shapes. There's the up arrow, double-click to insert it in the cell, and the same for the down arrow. Click Close. Now I can copy these, Control-C to copy, to my clipboard, and then we'll select the numbers we want to format, Control-1 to open the Format Cells dialog box, and I'll paste them into the type field. So the first is my positive value, so I'm going to cut out the down arrow and leave the up arrow in there. And then in the negative format, I'm going to Control-V to put the down arrow in. Now I don't need the negative sign before the value because the down arrow does that job for me. And let's go back and add some color coding. Why not while we're here? If it's going to be in a dashboard, then the quicker we can make it for our reader to interpret, the better. I might also put a space between the arrows and the value. Okay, now you aren't limited to arrows. If you're creating a KPI dashboard, then you might like to use wingdings. Under wingdings too, there's check marks and crosses that you could swap the arrows for. You can even insert emojis. To do that, press the Windows button and the semicolon, brings up the emojis pane, and you can insert them into cells and use them in the same way. The limitation is in Excel for desktop, you don't get the colored emojis, they're just black and white. But if you open this file in Excel online, then you get the full color experience. Here are some I've created using conditions like the pass and fail example earlier. Above 80% gets a clap, above 50% gets the OK sign, and below 50% gets the thumbs down. Download this file to copy these formats for yourself. You'll have noticed the formats are like tiny codes that give you professional looking reports without writing formulas or adding helper columns. This is the kind of thing my Excel Expert course is built around, taking you from where you are now to the kind of advanced Excel skills you can confidently put on your resume. Pivot tables, array formulas, error handling, automation, all the things that make people at work look at your spreadsheets and ask how you did that. You get practice workbooks, a certificate of completion at the end, and the thing that makes it different from a typical online course, you get my direct support. When you're stuck, you ask me and I answer. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. The link's in the description and pinned comment. Phone numbers can be a pain. If they're long, Excel will convert them to scientific notation, or they're just plain ugly and hard to read. Most people will fix this by prefixing the number with an apostrophe and then manually adding spaces. But you're likely to end up with inconsistent formats. A better way is to use a custom number format. So Control-1, Custom. Now you might want to prefix the number with +1 for the country code, and then the first 3 digits in parentheses, followed by a space, the next 3 space, and the next 4. And now you can simply enter the number and let Excel handle the format for you. Now remember, we used zeros for this number format instead of the hash symbol because a 0 is a placeholder that always shows a digit, even if it's a leading 0, whereas the hash symbol works too, but it skips leading and trailing zeros, which you wouldn't want for phone numbers. Default Excel date formats are tailored to your region settings, either month, day, year for the US, and day, month, year for the rest of the world, which is fine, but sometimes you need something specific. For example, month, year for finance reports, day of the week for project plans, a friendly format for internal communication, and custom format codes give you complete control. You can see some examples here, all based on the 1st of June 2026. Remember, my dates are day, month, year. For example, if you prefer hyphens to slashes, you can use the format code DD-MM-YY. If you want to see the day name, you can use 4 Ds to display the name, 2 Ds to display the day number with a leading 0 for single-digit dates, followed by 3 Ms for the month name abbreviated, and YYY for the year. If you want to shorten it, you can do that with DDD for the 3-character day name, followed by D for the day number. Or maybe you just need the day information, the abbreviated name, followed by the date. You don't need to include the day, you can just show the month and year, even though the date is a full date with the day included. Or maybe you want the year then month, and for those in the United States, you can put month then date, followed by the year. And as with all formats, the cell still contains a real date. Pivot tables can still group by month, and charts still treat it as a date. Now let's look at how to display text using a custom number format. If you've ever added labels like km for kilometers or kg for kilos, you're not only doing extra work you don't need, you're changing the data from a number that can be referenced in formulas to text that's static. With custom number formats, we can add that text directly to the number without changing the value underneath. So here we can add in double quotes, km. Notice I've left a space after the number. Click OK. So we keep the number fully usable for calculations, but we make it easier to read. Remember, if you have a lot of data, it's cleaner to put the metric in the header and leave the numbers without the clutter. Let's say you're sharing this file in a meeting and you don't want the commission numbers visible, but you still need them in the spreadsheet because formulas elsewhere reference them. Most people will hide the column or delete it, potentially breaking references. Another option is to hide it with a custom number format. We already know that each format, positive, negative, and 0 values, is separated by a semicolon, and we can exploit that by entering 3 semicolons with nothing in between them. You can see in the sample, it's hidden the data. The cells appear empty, but click any cell, the value is there in the formula bar. So obviously this isn't a security feature. It's for clean dashboards, demos, and screenshots, but don't use it to protect sensitive data. If you create a table of contents or forms in Excel, then you're going to love this next one. Let's start with forms, which often have a placeholder for a signature. I'll Control-1 to open the formatting. And with a clever format, we can have an underline automatically fill the remainder of the cell. The @ sign tells Excel to display the text. The asterisk tells Excel to repeat the character to the right to fill the cell. So I want it to fill with an underscore. Click OK. And now I have an underline that automatically adjusts based on the width of my cell. Similarly, we can prefix text with a character. For example, if I've got a table of contents, I might want a ... leading to that page number. So again, custom. This time we want asterisk dot because we want the dots before the text, and then the text represented by the @ sign. And now we have leading dots that automatically adjust with the column width, creating a visual guide across the cell. Feel free to be creative with this technique. You can use it with other characters like hyphens, wingdings, or even emojis. While custom number formats are about making your reports look polished, there's another side to using Excel well. The simple everyday tricks that work in any job, on any spreadsheet. The kind of thing you've probably Googled this week. This video has 7 of them. If you want to do your work in Excel twice as fast, this is a must. I'll see you there.